Hello learners. In this lecture we will see what all are the different tests that we have to conduct in order to determine the workability of the concrete. So before that, from the previous discussion what we had, we'll try to see one important point which you need to understand. So from previous lecture we have understood that if the if you use a rough texture, then what is going to happen? The surface area will be more, right? And we have already seen that if you want a better strength in the concrete, let me put it in this way. If I want a better strength in the concrete, then what I should do, I should go with the angular aggregates, right? We have seen that, because if you go with the uh, rounded aggregates, your strength will not be improved, right? So always we want strength, so that is why usually we try to go with the angular aggregate. But on the other hand, we have seen that if you try to make use of the angular aggregate, since this angular aggregates will have more surface area, as a result of that, what will happen, the workability is going to come down, right? So whatever I have told now, there are two contradictory points. That is, if you want to increase the strength of your concrete, in that case you have to make use of the angular aggregate. But on the other hand, if you use the angular aggregate, the workability is going to come down, right? Then how do you counteract this point? Then what is important for me, whether to whether the strength is important or whether workability is important, because we require both the thing. When I want to put my structure into use, I want the strength in my concrete, and along with the strength during the execution, I want the workability to happen, right? So usually what we try to do is we try to see which is important for me, whether you want strength or whether your intention is to get the workability. So based on that, we try to prepare the mix. But always what we most of the time what we try to do is, for us strength is important, so always we try to go with the strength. So if you want to go with the strength, then you have to make use of the angular aggregate. So in the process of doing that, what is going to happen, my workability is going to come down. So in order to improve the workability, what we can do is we can try to make use of the plasticizers, right? Like we have seen the plasticizers and super plasticizer, we'll try to add them. So as a result of that, what will happen, workability is going to get improved, right? So this is what usually we try to do. We don't try to compromise on the strength. If there is a requirement, we try to do that. Otherwise, always strength is important, and we'll try to make use of angular aggregate. Since workability is going to come down, we'll make use of the plasticizer there, so that the workability will be improved. That's it. Yeah. Yeah, I hope this basic understanding is clear, since there are two different contradictory points. Yeah. Now going for the measurement of the workability. So far we have seen what is workability and all, but how do you measure the workability, we need to understand. So the first is a slump test what we have. The second one we have is a compaction factor test. The third one what we have is VB consistometer test. And the last one what we have is a flow test. So to begin with, we'll start with the slump test, which is very important. And you usually see this slump test being carried out even at the construction site. So we'll try to understand the logic behind this, and we'll try to see how this test has to be performed. So slump test is a most widely used method to determine the workability of the concrete mix in the lab as well as at the site. So this is very important thing of a slump test. You can use this at the lab. Even during a engineering days, we have used this test in the lab. And let us say you're working in the site tomorrow, and even there also we can make use of this test. So it's a indoor as well as the outdoor test, I would say, that is lab test as well as the site test. The second is that slump test is preferred for medium workability concrete mix, and it is not suitable for very wet or very dry concrete mix. And we'll try to see through an experiment only why this is not applicable for very wet, okay, or very dry concrete mix. So it is applicable only for concrete mix which is having a medium workability, right? And we'll, with the help of a test, we'll try to understand why it is not applicable. Yeah. So these are the 2 points that we need to understand before we get into that. And this is how the test is to be conducted. I'll quickly, you can quickly see that. Okay, so this is that slump cone what we have all the apparatus here, and these are the different slumps what we get. We'll try to see that, and this is how we try to measure the slump. So you can see this, see slump is nothing but the vertical subsidence, or the subsidence is called a slump. That is, initially when you are prepared the concrete of this shape, it was somewhere to this level. So after some time, what will happen, it will try to subsidize. So how much amount it's going to subsidize, that is my slump value. And how it has to be done, we'll try to see now. Yeah. So coming to the test of that, aim is to determine the workability of a given concrete by conducting a slump test. Apparatus required is, we require a slump cone, we require a mixing pan, we require a weighing balance, we require a tamping rod, and a scale is required to measure. Coming to the theory, it's already understood, but still we'll try to see that. Slump is a measure indicating the workability of a concrete, and slump gives an idea of water cement ratio needed for the different works. Always remember, slump is going to give you the idea of the water cement ratio that is needed for the different works. So unsupported concrete, when it is fresh, flows sideways, and shrinkage in the height that makes place is known as slump. So slump increases as water cement ratio increases, and for different works, different slump values are fixed. So a concrete mix with more slump value is said to be workable, as it can be easily compacted, placed, and finished. Now starting with the procedure, okay, we'll see this. So you can see this is called a slump cone what we have, right? These are the two handles what you have to lift the cone. This is a measuring tape. You have a scale. Then this is the damping rod so that you can do a compaction. And these are the trowel what we have, right? And if you want to put it in a very better way, you see usually you have to understand one thing here. The top diameter what we have, no, this is usually 100 mm, and then the height will be 300 mm. You can see it here, it's written 300 mm, this height is 300 mm. And the bottom diameter what we have, since it's a type of a cone, so the bottom diameter what we have, it will be 200 mm, right? Then if you want, you can write this as well. It is mentioned 2 mm thick, and this is also 2 mm thick, and this is a tamping rod what we try to use, right? I hope this much is clear. So we'll try to see how this experiment has to be conducted. Yeah. So procedure is the weight of the ingredients of the concrete mix. That means you have to say, you have to fix a ratio first. What kind of ratio you want, whether it is M15 or M20 grade of concrete. And for that we have to calculate how much cement is required, how much sand is required, or how much aggregate is required, and how much water is required, and you have to prepare a concrete. And for the given mix, proportion is found out by noting down the volume of a slump cone and the unit weight of the fresh concrete. The second is that for a given water cement ratio, the fresh concrete is prepared by mixing the required quantity of ingredients. The third is that the concrete so prepared is filled in the slump cone in the 4 layers. Always remember, when you try to fill the concrete, we shouldn't fill it in a single layer. We have to do we have to fill it in the 4 layers, and we have to do compaction of 25 blows after each layer is filled, right? Why that compaction is done, why we are going to do the blows, because we want the density to be achieved in the concrete, and we don't want any voids to remain there. So as a result of that, we have to do the compaction. And then what you're going to do, the top surface is finished, initial scale reading of the top surface is noted, and finally the slump cone is lifted vertically. Once you fill the slump cone, you're going to lift it vertically without disturbing the concrete in the sideways, and the final reading of a top surface is noted. So the difference in the initial and the final reading is a measure of slump value, and the test is repeated for the different water cement ratio, right? So we'll see the entire procedure first, right? And then we can understand this in a better way. Now we can understand in this way also. See, this is a slump cone what we have. I've prepared a concrete mix. I'll try to fill it here. So once I've tried to fill it here, I'll keep a base here so that I'm going to get a support. And over that, I'll keep this, and I already filled it. Now what I'm supposed to do, I have to lift it vertically, right? Since I want to measure the settlement, I have to lift it vertically. And while you try to lift it vertically, make sure that you're not disturbing this entire concrete. And once you lift it, what is going to happen? Based on the water cement ratio that I've added, the concrete either try to go down, or it can directly go down like this, or it can remain something like this, or even it can remain in this way, right? So once you remove that, you have to wait for some time so that there is a slump is nothing but, let us say, initially when you had prepared the concrete, it was something like this, right? And when you remove this cone, that may go down, this will be a final shape of the concrete. So from the initial stage to the final, how much it has gone down, that is how much subsidence has happened, that itself is called a slump for us. You can see it here as well. Initially it was this level, then it has come to this level. So this much value what I'm getting, no, let us say this is something like 70 mm or 80 mm. So this is a slump value for me. So this value will help me to understand what is a slump in my concrete, right? That's it. Yeah, so I hope these things are clear how it has to be done. Yeah, now coming to the observation part, we know already all these things. That is a top diameter, it has to be, give me a minute, this is not bottom diameter, it has to be the other way around, because the top diameter is 10 centimeter, right? And the bottom diameter is 20 centimeter. Okay, you can change this, and the height is 30 centimeter. Let me verify it once again. Go back. Yeah, so you can see the top diameter, this is top, no, it is 100 100 mm. So bottom is 200, okay, and the height is 300. So they have made a mistake here. Don't try to copy this. Change all these things. Anyhow, I'll change it once again. Yeah, what you can do is the top diameter is 10, okay, and we say the bottom diameter is 20 centimeter, or you can write it as 200 mm, 10 centimeter, or you can write it as 100 mm, and the height is 30 centimeter or 300 mm. So since this is a since this is a cone, this is a formula what we try to put. Okay, so try to put this formula, that is pi by 4 into 20 plus 10. 20 is your bottom diameter plus top diameter divided by 2 into square into the height. Height is what you need to do, right? So you know how to put this formula. This is a plus b by 2 whole square into height. This is a formula. So once you put the formula, you're going to get how much amount of concrete you need to take. So this is the volume of a slum. So that means it is going to give this much amount of concrete you need to prepare so that you can fill the cone. Now coming to the mix proportion, see all these things you have to decide in the lab itself. For example, whenever we do the concreting, we have to decide the grade of a concrete, whether you want to make use of M15 grade of concrete, or whether you want to make use of M20 grade of concrete, or whether you want to make use of M25 grade of concrete or not, right? Now these things we'll try to see what is nominal mix, design mix, what is this in the chapter 3 or 4. As of now, we'll try to understand that M stand for mix, and 15, 20, 25 is a characteristic compressive strength. I'll repeat it again. It is called as characteristic compressive strength. That means once you prepare a concrete, you have to do a curing, like we did in the cement mortar, right? In cement mortar we had done the cement cubes like 7.07 by 7.0. The same thing you have to do for the concrete, and then you have to do the curing for 28 days. And after 28 days, when you do the compressive strength on that, the strength on that, the value should be greater than 25 Newton per mm square. Only then I can consider that I'm preparing a M25 mixed design, right? In this way we have to do all these things, right? So as of now, let us say we have taken a ratio. This 1:2:4 ratio is for M15 grade of concrete. Okay, yeah, yeah, this is for M15 grade of concrete. Okay, these are called as nominal mix. So one part of cement, two part of fine aggregate, and four parts of coarse aggregate. Now unit weight is equal to weight by volume, that is density is equal to unit weight. In the sense, it's a density. We know that this density is equal to weight upon volume, right? Now what I need to find, I know the density of the concrete. The density of the concrete is 2000. I'll write it here, hope it's visible. The density of a concrete is 2400 kg per cubic meter, or if you want to write in terms of kilonewton, you can write it as 24 kilonewton. Okay, yeah, 24, right? So I know the density of a concrete. I know the volume of how much volume, because volume I got from the slum. So with this, what I'm going to find, I'll try to find how much amount of concrete is required, that is in terms of kg or in the weight. So the weight of the concrete will be, what you have to do, weight is equal to this, you multiply here, that is you multiply density into volume, you'll get the weight. So they have written 24, they have written in terms of kilonewton, and into 1000 is what they have done. They have tried to convert it in terms of kg into 5301. They have taken it from the volume of a slum, and this is in terms of centimeter cube. I'll convert that in terms of meter. That is where they have multiplied this by 10 to the power of minus 6 and divide by 9.81, because they want to convert it from kilonewton to kg. So they are divided by 9.81. So finally, if you do this calculation, no, you are going to get 12.96 kg. So this much amount of concrete I need to prepare, okay, to do my test. So this is my total concrete what I have got, right? So this is a total concrete. Let me clear everything. This is a total concrete what I have. So in this concrete, what is present? Cement is present, right? In this concrete, sand is also present. In this concrete, my coarse aggregate is also present, right? Now individually how much proportion they are, I need to calculate that. Give me a minute. Yeah, so these are the different contents. So we have to do the calculation, and after doing the calculation, we are getting the weight of cement to be 1.85 kg, the weight of the sand is 3.70 kg, and the weight of coarse aggregate is 7.4 kg. So we are taking a little bit more amount of concrete here. I mean more amount of cement, sand, and coarse aggregate, since we have to do 2-3 different trials. So instead of 1.85, I'll go with 2.5 kg. You can take 3 kg also, but you have to try to balance this ratio. That's it. Huh? Now this is 2.5. I'll take this as 5 kg, and this, if this is 5, this will be 10 kg. Then how do you decide this? See, the ratio is 1 is to 2 is to 4, right? Say 2.1, right? And so a double of this will be how much? 5. So this will be 1. So double 2.5 into 2 is 5 kg. The ratio is still 2 only. And 2.5 into 4 is 10 kg. This ratio is 4, right? So to try to balance this ratio, that's it. Okay. There's no hard and fast rule that you have to take 2.5 only. This because based on your requirement, we are taking it. Here they have taken 2.5. Even you can go with 3 kg also if you want, right? If you take this as 3 kg, then this will become how much? 3 2s are 6. This has to be 6 kg. And if this is 6 kg, then 3 4s are 12. Then it has to be a 12 kg here. So the ratio remains 1 is to 2 is to 4. Based on the trial requirement, you can take it, right? But you don't have to write all these things in the exams. Just for your understanding, we are explaining it here. In the exams, all these things, observation, calculation is not at all required, right? In the written exam. Yeah. Now coming to the test, what we have done. Once you have done the test, you have got the water cement ratio. We have taken the water cement ratio 0.6 here. We'll start from 0.6. Then we have taken another water cement ratio of 0.7. We have done 3 different trials. In the first trial, I've added 0.6 as water cement ratio, right? Then how do you decide this? It's very simple now again. See, if water cement ratio, if you have fixed it as 0.6, with this you are going to get the water content, because if water cement ratio is 0.6, the weight of cement is already known 2.5. So 2.5 into, if you do 0.6, you are going to get how much amount of water has to be added. Similarly, in the second trial, if you take water cement ratio as 0.7, again 0.7, you multiply this by weight of the cement, which is again 2.5. So you are going to get how much water has to be added in the second mix. Here also, if you do, you are going to get how much water has to be added in the third mix, right? In this way you have to do it. Now coming to the initial reading, the initial reading will be 555. Since once you prepare the concrete, the slump is going to be, I mean, once you prepare the concrete in this way, it will be in this way. So the initial reading is 5 every time, right? Only the final reading is going to come down. So coming to the final reading, since for 0.6 water cement ratio, the final reading is that once you prepare the slump cone and once you try to lift the slump, then whatever subsidence you are going to get, no, that is called as final reading. The slump is called as final here. Okay. So the final reading is how much? 5 only, because that did not that did not subsidize only. So in the second one, you are getting a final reading as 7, right? And in the third mix, you are getting the final reading as 14.5. Why you are getting more here? Because you are increasing the water cement ratio. Since the water content has increased, there is a fluidity in your concrete, so obviously the flow is going to happen. If there is a flow, that means there is a subsidence in the concrete, right? If there is a flow, then there is a subsidence. So that is why you can see 5, 7 and 14.5. Now coming to the slump, what you do, final reading minus initial reading is what you can do. So 5 minus 5 is 0, so this is 0, there is no slump at all. So 7 minus 5 is 2 here, you can write 2 here. And then 14.5 minus 5 is 9.5. So here you are getting a slump of 9.5, that means 95 mm. Here you are getting a slump of 20 mm, and here there is no slump. So in this way you have to try to do this test in the lab. And these are the slump values that is required. Yeah. Now there are other things that we need to understand. So we have something called as true slump, we have shear slump, and we have collapse slump. So what is this actually? Always we want our slump cone to get this kind of slump, that is a true slump. That is, the moment you try to take out the slump cone, your concrete has to subsidize in this way. This is called as true slump. So the first is true slump. If the concrete subsidizes evenly, it is called as true slump. This is what we require. The second is called as shear slump. In this, what will happen, the half portion of this concrete is going to shear off, right? It should come in this way, but due to maybe less amount of cement, more water and all, what is going to happen, it's going to shear off from this part. So this is called a shear slump. So shear slump, if one half of the concrete cone slides down, it is called as shear slump. The shear slump is measured as a difference in the height between the height of the mold and the average value of the subsidence, right? The last one is called as collapse slump. So the collapse slump means, since it has very high water cement ratio, what is going to happen, the moment you try to lift it, no, the entire concrete is going to get collapsed and it's going to be in this way. So here what is going to happen, you'll be let me delete everything. Here what is going to happen, you'll be having a very high slump, right? So up to this you have to measure, but here what is going to happen, very low slump you are getting, right? But in collapse, what will happen, there's a high slump here. So this is called as collapse. So for the collapse slump indicates the linear mix. That means, by, right, by observing the slumps of different batches of concrete mix, one can judge the variation in the proportion of the ingredients from batch to batch. For example, a greater slump indicates the increase in the water content. If true slump turns to shear slump, it indicates that the quantity of cement is reduced or the mix is harsh. For this, why this shear slump is coming? The shear slump usually comes when the quantity of the cement is reduced or the mix is very harsh. This is how it happens. Similarly, the collapse slump indicates the sudden increase of water content in the concrete mix. Of course, when you add more and more water, what will happen? There is a more fluidity. As a result of that, there is a collapse, right? So in the view of the above, the test is very useful in ensuring the quality control in the mix proportion. So based on that, we try to do the test, right? Yeah. So I hope this much basic understanding is clear, that what is slump test, how it has to be done, and what are the different slump patterns that we have, right? Yeah. So in the next lecture, we'll try to see the one point which I told you in the beginning, that is, this test is not useful for very low. This is what I had told, that the slump test is not preferred for very wet or very dry concrete. We'll try to see why it is not preferable, and also we'll try to see the different slump values for the different construction. So I hope this much understanding is clear. We'll see you back in the next lecture. Thank you.